What are our priorities? We've kind of picked a flat-ish spot. The river is down below. We don't want to be down at the very, very bottom because the cold air is going to sink down there, and it's going to be 5 to 10 degrees colder, and that's going to be pretty miserable because it's going to get in 30s probably tonight, so that's going to suck. So we moved up a little bit, and then priority 1 is
shelter.
Some sort of shelter, and that includes some sort of flame.
Came in a little bit into the woods too, so we have a windbreak around us. So this is, I think, 25 feet of ignore unless I cut it. So we'll have cordage. I'll probably go ahead and get my duct tape out just because we're gonna be using a Mylar blanket. Duct tape's over here. We're gonna be using the Mylar blanket. We'll probably want to.
And it just so happens inside that Wazoo Beanie, we've got a small little stowaway spot here. And inside of that, it just so happens I have a Mylar blanket.
And so the Mylar blanket, as far as like pound for pound for a shelter and having something, I don't know if we would be able to get a nice lean-to that would actually be a water barrier in 2 hours.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. In my experience working by myself, it takes a minimum to have any kind of precipitation blockage at all. Minimum, I would say 3 hours.
We'll start off like this.
Something like this. What do you feel?
Oh, this is nice, man.
Will that work? Head uphill.
This feels good.
Until your feet get cold and then you do this. So. There we go. So I have 25 feet of cordage as well, and a small little bread tie that I just left on there. Save that for something.
For bread.
For bread. When the loaf of bread shows up. You know what I'm going to do to conserve my resource even more? I'm going to strip this duct tape down in half. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, that's what I do when all those happen.
For something that you could easily carry on your person every single day, it's kind of hard to beat these Mylar blankets. Wrap it around once that way, and the rest around the string. Yeah, that holds great.
What we call trail markers. We make these. These are exclusively made for Wazoo, and they're just really sexy bread ties. But one side is bright orange, you can see it during the day, and one is actually reflective, and we'll be able to see that at night. So, just like a bread tie. We'll see if mine comes off at 2 a.m. though.
Yeah, we'll see, huh? We'll find out. This is going to reflect heat from the fire.
Yeah.
And if I get myself a little bit of bedding, I think I'll be okay for first night. We can always figure out something the next night. There's some firewood. And we don't have any saws or anything like that other than a small wire saw. Which if you've ever used a wire saw, they work really good for small tasks, but for like bucking up firewood. Good grief, I'm out of breath from that. Oh, jeez. Carried a piece of firewood from like 20 feet down the hill, and I'm out of breath. But anyway, what was I talking about? Wire saws, but they work good for small tasks on green wood, but for like bucking up wood and things like that, it's not really a thing. But for the most part, I don't really do that anyway. I just leave stuff long and I feed it. So if this is my flame right here, I just as the wood burns, I just continuously feed the long piece of wood, and it just saves you a lot of energy and time.
We'll have this fire here. We're gonna have this rock helping radiate the heat out, and then we're gonna have it radiating down to us via those Mylar blankets. So I've got these spruce boughs up. They're not very comfortable right now, but they're a lot more comfortable than the ground. About 3 inches off the ground. So that's good. I've got a nice good amount of air. This would not be comfortable. You can see how big and knobby these are. And then these are pretty spiky. So on top of this, I think I'm probably gonna get some cedar. The cedar's actually around here is really soft. Is it cedar, Jason?
Juniper, right?
Juniper. Ash juniper, aka cedar. False cedar.
I think, right?
It's a false cedar. It's actually, they call it cedar, but.
The false cedar, yes, yeah.
The false cedar.
Yes.
So we'll put some false cedar on top of here. I think that's soft. And then we get the leaves.
So what's your plan for the rocks?
I'm gonna toast them up, get them nice and toasty, and I'm gonna put them by my feet. We don't have a bichon frise, a little bed dog, so I'm gonna have a bedrock. And I've learned that on several occasions. I learned it the hard way where I was just freezing, and then you know, the old hot water. I'd not tried the hot water bottle thing. And then I tried it one night after suffering for several nights, and it is a game changer. It is reading 70 degrees inside of our shelter here with our fire going. This is not sitting right next to the fire or anything. It's kind of just where my head would be when I'm sleeping. Reading 70 degrees, and it is probably in the mid 50s, I would say, outside of our shelter. So the Mylar blankets, I have mixed feelings about Mylar blankets. They're very fragile. You gotta be extra careful with them, and they're really kind of one-time use. You're never gonna pack them back up into that tiny package that it came in. It's just, I don't know how they do that, but it's like magic. But anyway, so it's really one-time use, but it's really one of the only shelters of any real size that you can carry easily in a pocket. Can you put up like a trash bag in your pocket and use that for shelter? Of course, but it's still pretty bulky. It's nothing like this. I mean, this thing was in my hat, my beanie, and it's tiny. So, and it will keep the rain off you for an evening. And it definitely is reflecting a ton of warmth from the fire. I can put my hand here right next to the Mylar, and I can feel that heat reflecting off of the Mylar on the back of my hand. Pretty significant. It's so it's a real thing. I mean, if you ever wondered if the Mylar blanket deal is kind of a gimmick, it's not. It works. Man, this is cozy. I'm snug as a bug in a debris bed rug. So nice.